Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPad 11th generation and compare it against the iPad Air M7 model and see which particular iPad is the better one for you. Now, the thing I can definitely tell you when it comes down to both these particular devices is that both of these devices are very, very good. I like both these devices a lot, and you can't really go wrong with either one of these particular iPads. They're both some of the best iPads you can basically get your hands on. So I want to kind of get that out of the way because these two devices are still very, very legendary in a lot of different ways. They're both very powerful, they're both brand new, so you can go inside of the Apple Store and buy them, or you can get them down from the links down in the description down below, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. So, starting off with the outside of both these particular iPads. On the front side of the iPad 11th generation, this iPad is giving you an 11-inch display. Now, within this type of device, there isn't really anything like super insane going on here. It's a pretty, average looking panel for the most part. So if you're going to go through and pick up an iPad, this is one of those types of iPads that's going to be good, but it's not going to be like this insanely nice looking iPad for the most part, mostly because that's what Apple saves up for the pros. For the pro models, that's where they go through and kind of spend a little bit more time and money on. These types of iPads, they don't really spend too much time or effort on, if I'm being honest. Now with this type of iPad, you're getting a little bit of bezel around it, nothing super crazy, it's about the same thing as the iPad Air, but it still is like a pretty good looking iPad, and I do think if you are going to go through and pick up a device, this thing still looks pretty good for the most part, even though it basically looks the exact same as the iPad 10. It still is like a good looking iPad nonetheless. So I will probably tell you from that side, that is kind of one of those big things to keep in mind there. With the iPad Air M3 model, this one is going to be giving you the same 11-inch type of display. Now within this type of panel, it's still going to be very good looking. I still like it a lot. There's not too many things to kind of complain about here from this side. But like I said before, this one is going to be giving you an overall better type of experience. The main reason for that is because this type of device is basically going to be giving you this not only true tone like the iPad 11 is giving you, but it's also giving you this anti-reflective coating. I also feel like that panel in and of itself just looks better. So if you are going to go through and once again pick up a device, that one is probably going to be the better looking one in my personal opinion. So once again, if you're trying to go through and pick up a device, I kind of do think that one would be the first one I'd recommend kind of looking at as being the better one here in almost every single way. So from that side, that's kind of a big thing to keep in mind there too. On top of that, when it comes down to the rest of the build qualities, they're both giving you USB Type-C ports on the bottom, which is really great. They're both giving you headphone jacks as well, which again is another really cool thing. They're both giving you these backs, which look great. There's not too much to complain about there on that side. They're also still giving you these single camera setups on the back as well. So I love having a single camera setup. That in and of itself is another really cool thing going on here too. You're also still going through and you're getting these Apple logos in the center, which look great. And beyond that, there's not really too much else going on here. I feel like both these look really, really good. And if you're going to go through and pick up these iPads, both these hold up fairly well from that side. From a price tag standpoint though, the iPad Air model is giving you a price tag of $599, with the iPad 11 Gen is giving you $349. The craziest thing here though is that for the most part, if you are actually looking at both these types of devices, the iPad 11 for its price tag is actually not too bad. For a brand new iPad, $349 is actually very, very decent. And I do think that is kind of a big thing to keep in mind here from that particular perspective as well. So if I'm about to go through and pick up a phone, I do think that is kind of one of the big things to keep in mind there from that particular side too. Again, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but that it could be one of the things you're going to keep in mind there from that particular side too. Now, when it comes down to their cameras, there's not really anything super crazy going on here that we haven't already seen before. This type of camera, it's going to be a single 12 megapixel camera on the back of both these. So both these are going to be giving you basically single camera setups on the backside, 4K video, which is going to be awesome. And that's kind of it. The front side is also very similar here too. It's a very, very similar type of layout. So you're going to be getting landscape 12 megapixel cameras, right? Which is really good. I love having that type of capability. They're giving you center stage 2, which that in and of itself is another really nice thing. And if you're about to go through and, pick up some sort of a device, both these phones are basically going to be giving you very good types of experiences. So you're not really going to be feeling like you're missing out on too many things here because both these devices are giving you very good capability when it comes down to that side. So I think that in and of itself is another one of those big things to keep in mind because you're both going to be getting a fairly similar type of experiences when it comes down to the performance capability of these cameras. So once again, that is kind of one of the big things to keep in mind here. They're both fairly similar and I wouldn't go from one phone to the other just based off the camera alone, in my personal opinion. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there too. Now, on top of that, another very big thing to keep in mind here is basically the software longevity. So both these iPads as of this point are still supported with software. So this is something that's really, really cool, something that's really important to kind of keep in mind with. If you're going to go through and pick up an iPad, you probably want the one that's going to be lasting for a longer period of time. It's tough to tell as of this point which one is going to be the longer lasting one. If I had to kind of guess, maybe the iPad Air M3 model would be the longer lasting one. I would assume that's also going to be the longer lasting one here because that's the one that's going to be giving you more software updates, right? So that one's going to be the longer lasting one here, especially with the performance, with a great performing chipset like that. But with that being said too, I still think an iPad 11 is still fairly good for the most part too. That one's still going to be supported with software for quite a few years. Apple's website, they don't really go through and talk about or demonstrate, how long the battery life is going to be lasting on these iPads. I wish they did, but they just don't. So in this particular situation, what I can definitely tell you, once again, in my personal opinion, is that when it comes down to both these devices are going to be giving you very long lasting battery lives. Like I said, it's just tough to tell on which one's going to be the longest lasting one here. But if I had to kind of guess, I would probably say that on the iPad 11, that one might be giving you better battery life. It's just kind of tough to tell. But if I had to kind of guesstimate here, it'd probably be something like an iPad 11 maybe. Finally, when it comes down to the performance, the iPad Air M7 model, I keep saying M7, M3 model, is going to be giving you that M3 chipset inside, 8-core CPU, 9-core GPU. The iPad 11 Gen is going to be giving you the Apple A16 chipset inside with 5-core CPU and 4-core GPU. So there's 3 cores less of the CPU and 5 cores less of the GPU inside of the iPad, 11 Gen. So that could be a pretty big thing to kind of keep in mind there too. If you're trying to go through and pick up the iPad that's going to be giving you the better experience here, well, clearly from a performance perspective, it's pretty much going to be something like an iPad Air M3 model. That one is probably going to be the faster, better performing device. And that's just kind of what ends up happening here. If you're going to go through and pick up the device, that one makes a lot more sense for me to recommend to people. So once again, kind of keep that in mind. It's not the end all be all. But if you are going to go through and pick up a phone, that's kind of one of those first ones I'd probably recommend kind of thinking about here from that particular perspective. So again, not the biggest deal in the world, but that would be one of those big things to keep in mind there from that side. If you're wanting the better performing device, it's probably going to be something like an iPad, Air M3 model. So finally, to sum up this whole entire video, I'm a big fan of both these devices, right? I love both these phones. I think they're both very, very good. And if you're about to go through and pick up a device, you can't really go wrong with either one of these. These are very good options. I like these phones, I like these iPads a lot, but I do think it's quite clear the iPad Air M3 model is going to be the better one here for almost every single person. That's the one that makes the most amount of sense for me to recommend to people. And I do think if you are going to go through and pick up a device, that's the one I'd recommend. With the iPad 11, I don't really know if this would be the first one I'd recommend people to buy. This is one of those phones that I think is good, right? It has a lot of capability and everything, but it's also one of those devices that it just doesn't make a lot of sense to go. I mean, it's a great iPad, but between these two, the M3 iPad Air is probably the better one here, in my personal opinion. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there too. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.